per employee per month. They can be a percentage of payroll. They can be a combination of percentage of payroll per employee per month. They can be percentage of payroll and then the benefits on the side like TotalSource does. But they're all, this is the foundation of the PEO. Here's the thing. The PEO can make money in any one of those 4 buckets. And will make different money on different accounts in different buckets. So they may be losing money in health insurance and making money in admin to subsidize it, or vice versa. So that's lots of brokers go out and they go look at the health insurance and they wind up being more, they're not looking at the whole picture. You have to look at the whole picture, right? So what you have to do, essentially, is you have to get these 4 numbers from the client by employee over an entire calendar year. Okay? So you'll write this down. This is exactly what you're asking for. I need your gross payroll for the full year of 2011 and everything that you paid to the PEO. There's different, you can say invoice reconciliation, there's a lot of things you do, but you need the workers' comp, you need the health insurance, you need the tax, you need the admin, right? And then you want it year to date for the year that you're in.
John, repeat those one more time.
Workers' comp, tax, employer paid health insurance, and the administration fee. However they give it to you. They may give it to you in a percentage, they may give it to you in a dollar figure, they may give it to you in 4 different things. You got to get it. And here's why you got to get it over the course of the year. Because everybody knows, y'all know what these are? Who knows what food is? And how much is it? And how long does it stop? Okay. SUDA, let's talk about Texas. Anybody know what SUDA is in Texas? 2.7, 2.9, something like that. Stops at 9,000. FICA, where's FICA stop? 108 this year. If I charge you 21% of your payroll throughout the course of the year, you know what that is? You know what this is? Margin. Okay? There's all kinds of tricks like this. Like workers' comp, you only pay up to 60,000 employee, dollars for executives. The things about Section 125 plans. There's a lot of tricks in here, right? But the reality is, when you take this and you break it down, and what you have to do once you get those numbers, then you go back and you recalculate the payroll with actual tax, and you add workers' comp, and you add the health insurance, and then what you have left over is how high you can price your deal. And on average, I mean, Steiner, how many 59 reps do we have? 250. Who knows what a fully loaded comp services deal is with a triple pack, payroll, HR, benefits for 90 people?
70 grand.
It's more like 100. What's your average DM quota in 59? 2 deals. Done. Right? And I've got case after case after case after case. I mean, just to kind of, I have a lot of conviction around this because there's not a single company in Austin over 100 employees left on a PEO. None.
John, how long does it take you for each one to actually go through hours of work to recalculate? You know how many?
I've successfully taken 48 off PEO.
How long does it take still for each one to go recalculate the entire payroll?
Once you get the spreadsheet set up, I mean, it may take a couple hours. But understand, when I come across a PEO account, I'm doing backflips. That's 100 grand in free money for me. On the one clear result, all these ones we talked about, I can go after deal after deal after deal after deal after deal, and it's probably well over half of my number in ADP.
And of the 40, what percent did you put on comp services versus you just flipped them right to TotalSource versus technology, roughly?
If you count PEO, probably 22. But understand that we didn't have it. You know how much money I've lost because we didn't have it? Because my ROI was too damn big? Right? It made me mad. Like before, you use corporate monitoring, whatever it was, right? But we lost money.
Ryan.
John, I got a question for you. I'd just like to hear your side of it. That's a tax, absolutely. January 1 start, bingo. July 1 start? Talk about it.
So that's a good question. So you got to beat them to the punch on the tax restarts. You got to tell them about it. But here's the thing. That's my talk track on the numbers will tell us what to do. Because just because there's tax restarts doesn't mean you can't do a July 1 deal. What you have to do is maybe year 1, first 6 months, they wash. Your ROI might be bigger than their restarts, and you have to do the math to show them. Here's what you're going to pay, $54 a person in FUTA, $243 a person in SUTA. Here's your 7 people that make over $106,000. Here's what you're going to double up on them. Add it all up, take into account your turnover. It's $112,000. We're going to save you $340 a year. You know what? Pull the trigger. Yank the cord.
Hey, and if it's a lot of hourly employees with a high turnover, they're not getting to the threshold to lose money on it anyway.
And you may be like, you know what? You got to do it by October, or we need to wait till January. Right?
By the way, Total Source's got a calculator, so they'll help you do it.
I was just saying, can we take Total Source's calculator
Yeah.
and use it to unplug the PEOs?
It's
Filter ready.
Yeah, what's going to happen when you do this math, and you're like, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to explain it to the client. They're going to look at it, not going to believe you. They're going to look at it. They're going to do it themselves 3 times, and then they're going to get pissed because of how much money they're paying. And the other thing that's going to happen is you're going to be brainstorming on what else you can put on this deal because you have so much ROI.
You start pulling other stuff
Cornerstone,
in. I need more.
You know, all kinds of crazy stuff, right?
You guys, I was just going to say, think about this, and this is something that I want to talk about going into next fiscal year, is if you do it towards the end of the fiscal, it's actually okay. Because if we implement them in November, December, how many months are they having to pay the tax restarts for? 1 or 2 months. Big deal. So you still have this huge ROI, and then, as opposed to July where they have 6 more months of tax restarts. If you do it in November, December, they have 1 or 2 months, and you still have this huge ROI.
Also, wait, hang on. So this is important. If their percentage of payroll does not go down in direct parallel with the tax thresholds, then why do they care if they have a tax restart?
Well, they don't know.
Right? So now sometimes some will stop at SUTA, stop at FICA, and not stop at FUTA. Some will rebate it back. So you got to be careful when you're asking, but you're always going to get to about $1,200 to $2,000 employee.
Yeah, I think to add to what you said, Ryan, it's great to start them and get them started in November. Who wants to implement over Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's? So that's a lot of our pitch to get them in. We start our selling season to take PEOs away at the beginning of our fiscal. Go through the process, bring the broker in at the end. Then we're trying to get them over earlier so that it's easier on our implementation team and easier on the client.
And that's exactly right. I've talked to Mary Ann about this and George and team that, right, PEOs crushed us in January because we get them late in the game and they say, I have to start in January because I don't want the tax restarts. And so if we start to get ahead of this, maybe put a campaign together, start to target them now for a transition with a 12-month implementation cycle, that we then put them live in production in November, December, and potentially even we have an incentive to say, hey, you know what, you're concerned about tax restarts, we'll take care of this for you.
And here's the thing, you guys, DMs turn over, DMs get promoted, DMs move to other jobs, DMs leave, right? So if you guys learn how to do the math, if I'm a VP, which I'll never be because of the HR stuff, but that's fine. No, so if I'm a VP, that's kind of fun. If I'm a VP, what I would do if I was y'all is I would learn the math, and then I would walk over to my SC, and I would make sure they knew how to do the math, because they don't really leave, right? And now what you have is you have an SC who understands the PEO math, so it doesn't matter how many DMs you hire or can or whatever, and who comes in. You have some stability, you have the math, and if you think about what $100,000 per DM in your space means to you in more sales, this is the easiest way to get there.
Dave and Scott.
From a math standpoint, are you just getting a gross number and then getting these numbers, or are you literally going employee by employee to see who has hit their limits?
You have to go employee by employee because of who hits the limits, right? And you have to look at it over a calendar year, but it depends. Sometimes they have them broken out, sometimes they don't. So I'm trying to get them to release it. And there's also a law that just passed that the PEO has to release the insurance data of claims and things like that. So that's kind of a new thing, so.
So you need to register them to show what they've made for the day?
If it's administered disparity, you get the invoice reconciliation report.
Scott?
If
Okay.
it's,
So quick word of caution though. The reason there's 4 items up there is because the money is hidden across all 4.
Right.
We're talking all about taxes, but you probably know this. For example, Total Source does stop at the tax
Right.
thresholds. So if you were competing against Total Source with this approach, you'd lose. So it's a
It's
shell
just
game.
tax.
They're going to make their money, but it's going to be hidden across any or all of those 4, not just in this one.
Did you guys follow that?
yeah,
You have a.
yeah, we've got probably 4 or 5 that we can see.
And it depends on the PEO you're going up against with the spreadsheet, right?
Right.
Because it disparities.
Rock, and then I got Black.
Okay, go ahead, Nick.
So bigger than restarts, how big is year-end bonuses at, say, 21%?
Keller Williams, you know who that is, real estate,
Yes.
pays 1/3 of their salaries at the year end on a bonus, okay? The PEO they were on did not rebate them back on FICA, on FUTA. The FUTA, 0.8% of 1/3 of their payroll was like $470,000.
You need to seal them in November.
Top. That's why they moved in August.
Yeah, move them earlier.
That's right.
Okay, so each state has their own law around state unemployment, every state has their own law. And in Florida, for example, which is 10 quarters, you go back to the new business rate. But a lot of times, if they haven't been on the PEO longer than 10 quarters, you actually get the rate you came into the PEO with, you can leave with. So a lot of times, if the state unemployment rate when they went in, let's say they were, 1.0 or 1.5, when they come out, they don't automatically go to 2.7. They can come out at 1.5. The tax liability could be lower than the new business rate, which is what John was quoting on 2.7. So just something to add.
Brett?
Yeah, and a lot of the states now, the unemployment picture across the board, I know like Florida, we're seeing a lot of the PEOs now are get 5.4 unemployment rates across the PEO. So that used to be one of the issues, is we couldn't pull them out, because there'd be savings everywhere for students, they have like the one rate. But now that's really leveled the playing field, a lot of these guys are realizing that goes around the control piece, and now they can control their maintenance, that helps on the ROI as well.
All right, Teresa?